Most extreme sports videos you see online are thrilling, inspiring, even beautiful. But what those videos don't show you are the moments when the sport stops being a challenge and starts being a predator. People think extreme sports deaths are loud, giant waves, exploding cars, collapsing cliffs. But the truth? The scariest ones are silent. They happen in a split second. A whisper, a shift in the air, a tiny, almost invisible detail that decides someone isn't coming home. Today, we're going to walk through 5 of the most terrifying extreme sports deaths ever recorded. Stories so disturbing that even the most experienced athletes still get chills talking about them. These aren't freak accidents. These aren't wrong place, wrong time tragedies. No, these stories feel like the environment chose its victim. And if you've never heard them before, after today, you might rethink what risk really means. Wingsuit flying is easily one of the most dangerous sports on Earth. You're basically throwing yourself off a cliff and trusting a nylon suit to behave like a bird. And no one flew better than 29-year-old James Holt. In the wingsuit world, James wasn't just good. He was legendary. The kind of guy who made other wingsuit pilots say, "I want to fly like him someday." He had perfect control, perfect instincts, perfect fearlessness. And on July 14, 2018, James planned one of his most beautiful flights, a live-streamed wingsuit glide down the side of the Swiss Alps, a flight he had practiced dozens of times, a flight he would never finish. The video starts with James on the cliff edge. He's calm, focused, smiling. He says into the camera, "All right, let's fly." He jumps. The camera angle switches to his chest-mounted GoPro, and for the first 20 seconds, it is stunning. He glides inches from the rock face, so close that you can see individual cracks in the stone. His speed increases, 140 mph, 160 mph, 200 mph, and suddenly, he drops lower, skimming the mountain so closely that one wrong movement would turn him into dust. But for James, this was normal. Until the 8th second of the dive. Out of nowhere, you hear a faint sound, barely audible, like someone clapping underwater. Wump wingsuit experts who reviewed the footage call this sound air collapse. It's not turbulence. It's not wind. It's what happens when the air pressure beneath a wingsuit drops instantly, removing lift the way a rug is pulled from beneath your feet. In the video, James's wings suddenly fold inward. Both arms snap downward, as if invisible hands grab them. His entire body tilts sideways. At 200 mph, he is now completely out of control. The camera shakes violently. There's a flash of gray rock, and then a sickening metallic scraping noise. The stream cuts out. When rescuers reached him, they realized James had clipped the mountain with the side of his helmet. He died instantly. But here's where things get disturbing. Investigators recovered audio from the corrupted GoPro file. Right before impact, there's a whisper, a human voice, not clear, not identifiable, but it sounds like, "Not now." Wingsuit pilots who heard it still argue about what it means. Was it James? Was he trying to correct something? Or did he hear something else in the final second of his life? To this day, professional wingsuit flyers refer to that incident as the second the mountain chose. That's story number 1. A wingsuit legend who mastered the air until the air stopped playing along. But James wasn't the only one who experienced a tiny, almost invisible warning right before disaster struck. Because in story number 2, a legendary drift driver hears a sound so small, so subtle, that people didn't notice it until his car was already in midair. And that brings us to story number 2. Story 2, the Pop. The drift legend who heard his own warning. Akira Matsuda didn't just drift cars, he danced with them. If James Holt negotiated with the air, Akira negotiated with gravity. Fans called him the human handbrake. Sponsors called him a genius. Competitors called him untouchable. And on March 9, 2017, at the Drift X Finals in Osaka, Akira was about to perform a maneuver so clean, so tight, that people still study his runs on slow motion. But what nobody saw, what nobody heard, was the tiny, almost impossible warning that happened just 1 second before everything went wrong. The video begins with Akira's signature entry. Full throttle, rear tires smoking, car angled sideways like it's sliding on ice. The crowd loves it. People scream, kids hold up signs, someone in the stands yells, "This is the king!" But inside the cockpit, Akira is calm, focused, every movement small, precise, beautiful. As he approaches the tight V-shaped corner, he pulls the handbrake gently, and the car glides like it's weightless. The commentators freak out. "He's threading the needle, look at that angle!" Everything looks perfect, until it happens. During the slow-motion replay, if you listen carefully, right as Akira pulls through the apex, you hear something tiny. Not an explosion, not a crack, not metal grinding, just a simple, soft, disturbing pop. The kind of sound you hear when you break a toothpick. In the moment, no one notices, but that pop was the sound of Akira's steering column fracturing internally. A failure so rare that engineers later said it's less likely than getting struck by lightning inside a building. But Akira knew. The instant the column snapped, Akira's head tilts a fraction of a degree, like he felt something tear beneath his hands, and then the car jerks violently. The rear wheels regain traction at the wrong angle. The car grips, snaps, and launches sideways like it's being yanked by an invisible rope. It slams into the steel barrier. Bang! The impact lifts the entire car into the air. It spins once, twice, 3 times, 4, before landing upside down in a cloud of smoke and dust. Silence for 3 full seconds. No one moves. No one screams. No one breathes. Then the medics sprint toward the wreck. Akira was gone instantly. Later, reporters speak with Akira's pit crew. One mechanic reveals something horrifying. That morning, Akira told him, "My car feels stubborn today." The mechanic laughed. Akira didn't. He continued, "Like something's trying to pull me off the line." When the mechanic heard that after the crash, he quit motorsports forever. That was story number 2. A drift legend, a perfect run, and a warning so quiet you only notice it after it's too late. But as terrifying as that was, story 3 is even worse. Because in this one, the thing that kills our athlete isn't mechanical. It isn't man-made. It's a force so massive, so ancient, and so unpredictable that even professionals call it the ocean's mood. Story 3, the wave that grabbed back. The big wave surfer pulled under by something no one saw coming. Maria Alvarez wasn't afraid of the ocean. The ocean was afraid of her. If you surf big waves, you know her name. Maria was the kind of surfer who treated 60-foot walls of water the way other people treat staircases. Confident, calm, almost casual. But on November 21st, 2021, at Nazaré, Portugal, home to some of the biggest waves on Earth, Maria encountered something that made even veteran surfers refuse to talk about that day. The footage starts with Maria being towed into a massive wave. It's a monster, over 20 meters tall, a moving building made of water. She releases the tow rope and commits to the descent. For 4 seconds, Maria is perfect. Her stance strong, her board slicing water like a blade, her speed increasing rapidly. But then, the ocean changes. Waves don't usually collapse inward. They break forward sideways or explode into foam. But Maria's wave folds in on itself, like a giant fist closing. Experienced surfers described it as like the wave decided to shut. The water behind her forms an unnatural vacuum. Maria loses balance for a split second, barely noticeable, but enough. The collapsing force grabs her board and yanks her downward into the worst place a surfer can be, the washing machine. a violent underwater vortex that tumbles and crushes anything inside it. She surfaces once, gasps, then the wave slams her down again. She surfaces a second time, eyes wide, terrified, and gets pulled under yet again. The rescue jet ski tries to reach her, fails, tries again, fails. The third attempt, they reach her, but she's floating face down. When the footage circulated online, viewers noticed something disturbing. Right before the wave swallows Maria, the water, the foam, the shadows combine to form a shape, a massive hand, closing around her. Experts dismissed it as pareidolia, the human brain seeing patterns where none exist. But big wave surfers don't think it was a coincidence. One said, "The ocean has days when it feels alive, and that day, it was hungry." That was story number 3. A wave that didn't break, it grabbed. But if you think a collapsing wave is terrifying, story 4 is somehow worse. Because in this next case, the thing that kills our athlete is invisible, silent, and only 1 inch wide. Let's move to story number 4. Story 4. The misplaced carabiner, the slackliner who trusted the air a little too much. Slacklining at ground level is fun. Slacklining at 200 meters above a canyon, that's insane. But for Felix Romer, it was meditation. Felix wasn't reckless, he was methodical. He checked every piece of gear 3 times, sometimes 4, and on October 3, 2020, Felix attempted a high-line walk across Devil's Canyon in Utah, a place known for unpredictable crosswinds. He had done similar walks before, but this one had something different. Even witnesses later said the wind that day felt wrong, like it wasn't blowing randomly, but following a rhythm, as if something living was breathing in the canyon. Felix steps onto the line. He breathes slow, his balance perfect. The camera crew records everything from a stationary drone. The line sways gently, normal, predictable. Halfway across, Felix pauses. This is where the audio picks up something chilling. Through his mic, Felix whispers to himself, "That wasn't wind." Nobody knows what he meant, but seconds later, they find out. A gust of wind hits Felix from the left, hard. He sways, but recovers. Then the second gust hits, even harder, hard enough to bend nearby bushes sideways. But here's the strange part. Geologists later reported no weather conditions that could produce a gust like that. It appeared out of nowhere. Felix loses balance. He falls, but his safety leash catches him, exactly as designed. For a moment, everyone sighs in relief. But then, slowly, almost mechanically, the carabiner rotates, 1 degree at a time until, click, it unclips. Felix drops straight into the canyon. Rescue teams later confirmed the carabiner wasn't faulty. It wasn't damaged. It didn't fail. It just turned on its own. Slackliners across the world rewatched the footage dozens of times. Gear experts tried to explain it. None could. One expert finally said under his breath, "It's like the wind had fingers." And that phrase stuck, because after watching the footage, you'd think the same thing. Story 5. The blue light. The freediver who followed something no one could explain. Freediving is already terrifying. Your heart slows, your vision blurs, your world becomes silent. But Alejandro Cortez wasn't just any freediver, he was a record breaker, 122 meters on a single breath. On June 18, 2021, Alejandro planned to go deeper, 124 meters. Everyone expected him to succeed. No one expected what they would see on the ascent footage. Alejandro lowers himself along the rope. Past 30 meters, colors fade. Past 60 meters, the world turns navy blue. Past 90 meters, his body relaxes as the dive reflex kicks in. Everything is silent, serene, until he reaches 110 meters. That's when his head suddenly tilts to the right. He stops, looks down, and then the camera catches it. A faint blue glow in the darkness, like a tiny star shining at the bottom of the ocean. Divers reviewing the video later all said the same thing. There is nothing down there that emits light. Nothing. But Alejandro starts swimming toward it. Experts believe it was nitrogen narcosis, a hallucination caused by pressure, but experienced freedivers disagreed, because Alejandro changes direction in a perfect arc, almost like he's following something moving slowly in front of him. The blue light flickers, brightens, dims, and he follows it deeper. At 118 meters, he is off course by more than 15 meters. His safety divers panic. When they reach him, Alejandro's eyes are open, wide, terrified, and looking upward toward something the divers can't see. He loses consciousness during ascent. His final recorded heart rate drops so low that medical staff said he wasn't panicking, he wasn't fighting. It was like he had given up to something we couldn't detect. The last frame of his camera shows the blue light flickering again, then vanishing. That was story number 5. A freediver following a light that shouldn't exist. But now, with all 5 stories told, we're left with a question. Are these really accidents? Or is extreme sports less about challenging nature and more about nature challenging us? And that brings us to the outro. Narrator: slow, steady, unsettling. Now that you've heard all 5 stories, you might be tempted to chalk them up as accidents, mechanical failures, bad luck, nature doing what nature does. But if you look closely and listen even closer, you'll notice something all 5 stories share, and it's terrifying. Before James hit the mountain, he whispered, "Not now." Before Akira's steering column failed, there was a tiny, unnatural pop, and he told his crew the car felt stubborn. Before Maria went under, the wave formed a shape that looked disturbingly like a hand. Before Felix fell, he whispered, "That wasn't wind." Before Alejandro lost consciousness, he followed a blue light that should never exist in the ocean. These athletes didn't just experience danger, they experienced presence, a feeling like something else was there with them, something patient, silent, watching, choosing. Extreme sports athletes often talk about the zone, a place where your senses sharpen and you feel connected to everything around you. But there's another zone, one they don't talk about, a darker one, a moment where the environment goes quiet, too quiet, where the air feels heavy, the wind stops behaving like wind, and your instincts start screaming at you. A moment that says, you shouldn't be here. Every sport has a name for this moment. Surfers call it the ocean's mood. Climbers call it the silent drop. Drivers call it the deadline. Freedivers call it the deep stare. Different names, same feeling. The moment right before nature takes something. These deaths weren't similar by accident. They were similar because they were precise. Each athlete had decades of experience, perfect gear, perfect conditions, and yet each one died the second something tiny, almost invisible, went wrong. A whisper, a shift, a flicker, a rotation, a feeling. And that's what makes these stories so horrifying, because if the environment can stay quiet until the exact moment you let your guard down, then maybe extreme sports aren't about mastering nature at all. Maybe they're about surviving whatever watches you from inside it. Extreme sports don't kill loudly, they kill quietly. And the scariest part? You never hear the warning until it's already too late.